Hey YouTube, what's up? So on my last video, I had kind of talked about continuous improvement and what that looks like, and I gave a lot of examples. And I just kind of wanted to clarify to some extent that when I'm giving these examples, I'm giving them from where I currently am and where I have been. And I think I definitely leaned on the where I am. So just briefly, as somebody who has been a professional mechanic, small engine and heavy equipment, not necessarily a professional automotive mechanic, and as somebody who has, or at least had started out without a permanent dwelling, somebody who'd kind of moved around seasonally a lot, started with a different set of needs than what I eventually have come into. And that's all just to say that I am starting and living from a certain point, and we all are starting and living from different points. Some of us started 30 years ago. Some of us are still thinking about getting started. And so, at least for the duration of this video, I kind of want to focus on going back a little bit more, because I've already kind of covered where I'm at now, and I kind of want to just retrace my steps in getting to the setup that you're seeing now, where I am at currently, and maybe at some point getting into more depth about where I'm ultimately currently looking to go with all of this. So getting started out, there's a much bigger emphasis that I feel like we can all somewhat agree on, with quantity over quality in a lot of situations. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't try and invest in the quality level that you're capable of, or that your conditions require of you. It's just that there's such an upfront need for tooling, particularly in mechanical work, that's not necessarily always required in other fields. So construction is a very different situation. For right now, let's stick on this mechanic analogy for all of this, in that you've got a lot of sockets, you've got a lot of different access points, you've got a lot of different types of jobs that you're doing, whether it's on hex head bolts, whether it's oil filters, whether it's dealing with all different kinds of different fastener heads, if it's dealing with access issues, trying to get into a fastener at a different point, or dealing with torque spec, or things that don't necessarily always want to move, that need to move. There's all these different aspects that we have to consider, that starting out is daunting. And so what does continuous improvement look like at those stages? Well, it's certainly a more rapid process. It's trying to get your bare necessities going, trying to be able to do the most with the least amount of tooling, what have you. So does that start off with getting a little bit of everything, or getting just a lot of one thing? I can't tell you. I started out with a little bit more of a mix with that Husky 270 piece kit, and then quickly felt the need to change into something more complete, where I went with the Quinn Master sets. But could I have been just as easily served if I had started out with just the 3/8 set of the Quinn Master sets? That covers a pretty significant range of the quarters and the half inches that I would need. Maybe that would have been the better starting point. Who's to say? Did I need to go with the master sets at all? Well, in my situation, yes. I was working on SAE and metric with near equal frequencies. So the master sets made logical sense to me. But that's not where everybody else is starting out at. So it really kind of just honing in on what your actual immediate needs are is one of the biggest first steps in engaging with continuous improvement. Because without an understanding of our foundation, how can we really predictively or consistently actually raise the bar, actually improve? So that leads to the idea of, well, you've got a lot of quantity, you've covered that base, you've got as much of the broadness, the breadth that you can. How do you then go from there? Well, that could look like increasing the way that you could address these issues, considering impacts, or maybe you started with impacts so that you didn't have just chromes and just impacts. Equally valid depending on our conditions and our circumstances. Are we going towards improving our access potential? So we have a way to access, or two ways really to access a fastener. Well, but what if we need more? Then we're adding to that capacity. Or are we thinking about things that are outside of that whole range? Are we now starting to get into fabrication sides of things? Are we getting into different specific alternatives? Are we getting into diagnostic capacity? Are we seeing what we have, finding that it's sufficient, and realizing that it's just not optimized? Is that the improvement? All of these are kind of things that you have to weigh. They're all these cost-benefit analyses that you have to do simultaneously, not necessarily all in real time. I mean, you can sit and dwell on this as long as you'd like. I've probably done a fair bit more of that than maybe the average person, but nonetheless, we have ways of approaching these. Things that have helped me was having multiple different carts at different websites, different things that I would just sort of keep up, different wish lists that I would just sort of keep checking on things for. As I started to get into what do I need, or what would I like to be able to do? And really, those are two of the bigger questions that we need to be asking. What do I currently need to be able to do? What would I like to be able to do? What would be beneficial to change about the way that I am currently doing things? And these are kind of just the questions that I think we need to ask ourselves continuously to be able to continuously improve. But these systems don't just involve mechanics, they involve all of the other aspects of our lives that can go into this currently rather entropy-laden system of just trying to figure out how I'm storing some of my most frequently used shop chemicals, mostly oil for different equipment, oil changes, and filters, just frequently moving parts, extra brake cleaner, things like that. At least having that understanding of how we want to continue to improve how our setups go, similarly to how I currently maintain the majority of my construction tools, whether that be between power tools, between hand tools, between all of the different bits and accessories and things that go on with that. Just thinking about how we want to continue to operate and what obstacles are preventing us from that next level of optimization. And taking that approach of having our objectives being things that we're kind of figuring out, those goals, and then working backwards to how we're going to get to those has been at least useful for me. kind of that working backwards approach into how I wanted to go through acquiring each layer of work capacity that each one of these individual investments ultimately lead to. So, having somewhat sought to try and explain some acquisitional philosophy for newer, or not necessarily younger, but people that are simply newer, starting at that earlier stage. These are just sort of the things that not necessarily you should go out and buy or you should go and get, but the things that you should think about for your specific situation, needs, and constraints, and use in your planning to address things as you continuously improve. These are just sort of some of the main things to think about, to watch out for, to ask questions about and explore. So if you were able to follow all the way to this point, once again, just let me know if this sounds in any way, shape, or form new, or if there's something that you'd like to hone in on, or something that you think I've completely abandoned, neglected, or just otherwise not included. By all means, let me know down in the comments. Either way, that's all I've got for this one. I'll see y'all in the next one.